Today on the Failing Up podcast, we have Jameson Durham to discuss life and business lessons. Jameson shares his journey from retail management to real estate, highlighting pivotal moments like a near-fatal accident that led him to pursue a new path. The conversation delves into failures, motivation, and unique challenges and rewards of the real estate industry, emphasizing the importance of a compelling why to drive success. Let's jump in.
All right. Welcome back to the Failing Up podcast. I'm Bethany Voice. I'm the Vice President of Strategic Development for Level 8 Platform. And we're here to talk about humble lessons in life and business. I'm here with the amazing David Huffaker.
Hey, guys.
Good to see you.
So excited.
I almost said my boss, my mentor.
No
what do we say? What's a I do feel like
everybody in my world, we're business partners.
Mentor, I don't know. So many great titles that you have.
I do appreciate, you and I've had an interesting journey the last 60 days. And,
we have, yeah.
I appreciate the transparency. I will say that your faith in me made me have more faith in myself, right? I don't know if that's a thing, but to be able to borrow it, I was like, the fact that you respect me enough for us to have some conversations we've had, made me want to honor that, right? And just really makes me proud of the companies we've created together.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, and that we can celebrate each other and lift each other up.
100%. Definitely a testament of the relationships. And it's exactly what we're going to talk about in the podcast. We're here with Jameson. Jameson, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little about you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jameson Durham. I am a real estate professional with Keller Williams Lebanon. I am the business center team lead there and founder of the Jameson Durham Group.
Amazing.
You were recently on like Channel 4 or something.
That's
what made me think of you. I was like, Jameson's making the rounds on some celebrity circuits.
I'm on my book signing tour right now. Last week it was Channel 2 as their Wilson County real estate expert. Did I just put that in quotation?
I saw you. I thought I saw you on.
Expert?
I thought you were doing the weather.
This week we're doing. Well, I did the weather too, and now I'm doing the fanciest podcast I've ever.
That's
recorded.
right.
This is nice.
I know. It's really nice, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
One day we're gonna get one of these in office.
I love this.
I'm always jealous of my buddy Nate. He's got his own setup there, right? And so we need our own setup, our own stuff on the walls.
If I had this in the office, I don't know if I'd ever leave to go do like real estate stuff. I would
probably just narrate things.
Yeah, I would talk into this all the time.
I now just record myself talking and then go back and listen to myself. It's very ego
I can't do it.
supportive.
I can't do that. No way.
Kidding.
Never. I was about to say, I was like, David, we need to chat offline.
Yeah. No.
I kind of do that.
Well, we are so excited you're here. As I said, this podcast is all about failure. I think we spend a lot of time out in the industry talking about what makes people so great, and we want to spend a little time talking about the failures that maybe made us who we are. Yeah. So when you think of failure, Jameson, what does that mean to you?
Okay, well, first off, I'm excited to be the poster boy of failure. That's really cool. And I had never heard the term failing forward until last year at the event that you did in the summer, and somebody mentioned that. And I thought, wow, that is a pretty accurate description of how I got into the business, kind of. And, you know, some backstory on how I got into the business. I was a retail big box store manager. I worked for the largest retail company in the world. You can figure that out probably, for 18 years. And my last store was in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I've lived in Lebanon my whole life, right? So I drove for 3 years from Lebanon to Chattanooga.
Wow.
And that was kind of, the longer that went on, the more of that was a exercise in failure and futility. And you think, I can do whatever to, be successful. And the first year was great. And that third year, I thought, I've really got to do something different with my life. And what really made me have that decision to get into real estate, I was driving down I-40 one morning. I would leave my house about 5 o'clock to get to my store at 7 o'clock. And I fell asleep and woke up at exit 273, which is Silver Point, Smithville, doing 110 miles an hour on the off-ramp.
Oh, my goodness.
And woke up as I was crossing over the bridge and going back down. And then, pow, I was back on I-40 like that.
Wow.
Blink of an eye. It's
crazy.
Insane.
And my first thought was, if I died, I wouldn't have to go to work today.
Wow. Yeah.
My second thought was, okay, thought number one, that's kind of messed up. What are we going to do about it?
Yeah.
And that's when I started kind of trying to, make a plan. And we'd had some family stuff in the year before where we bought and sold 3 houses. And my real estate agent at the time, who I found on Facebook because he was the only person I knew in real estate, right? And he was like, well, he's a full-time real estate agent, so he must be very successful, right? He said, you should sell real estate. And I looked at him. I said, dude, this is while we were doing our transactions together. So that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard in my life. I was like, that's all commission, right? Oh, 100%. I was like, no, why would I do? And a year later, I was like, what if? And I started thinking about that. And I thought, what am I really good at? And 18 years as a retail manager, I was good at processes and I was good at people, solving problems, handling situations. And I thought, gosh, here I am. College dropout because I was going to be a rock star in college. I didn't need a degree. We're just going to go. We're going to go to LA or Seattle. So I have no formal education. I didn't really know where to go or what to do, but I thought, I think with people and processes, I can do real estate. I know how to return phone calls. I can answer emails, and that seems like a lot of it. So I went home to my wife after that, and she's sitting on the back porch, and she's like, hey, what are you doing? I said, I've got big news. I'm quitting my job. My wife had been a stay-at-home mom for 5 years, and she looked at me and she said, what are you going to do? She hates the story. I said, I'm going to go upstairs and I'm going to sign up for real estate school. And my wife looked me dead in the eye and said, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard in my life.
Always good to surround yourself with such supportive spouses. Right?
And I asked her, I said, well, okay, tell me what your problems are. And she said, well, you don't know anything about real estate. And I said, well, no, but I know how to return phone calls and, answer emails. So I'm already objection handling here without even knowing
what that was.
And she said, well, you don't know enough people. And I said, you're right, I don't. And I was wrong about how many people I knew, but I didn't think I knew anybody at the time. And the third thing, she's like, you have no local connections. You're not old money Lebanon or old money Wilson County. And she was horrified. And I said, well, give me 6 months. If I can't sell a house in 6 months, I'll go back, and here come the air quotes again, I'll go back and get a real job.
Yeah.
So first 6 months, I sold 7 houses to people that were all Walmart associates that worked for me or with me at different stores.
Good for you.
And we haven't looked back since.
Yeah. I love
and
that.
I love that story. I think it's so important. I love real estate for that reason, right? Anyone who wants to focus on something and have success can, right? And it's such a neat, there's so many things in our industry being thrown around right now around the commission lawsuits and almost making agents out to be villains. And I go like, we've said this a few times, but it's like, we don't feel that way. Like we're helping people navigate new births and space growth and parents, downsizing and divorces. And we get to have this intimate relationship with our community. I don't hardly know any agents. I'm sure like in any industry, right? There are a handful that are out there for the buck, right? But most agents are there to serve. And how many other industries do you know where someone goes and works without any promise of a paycheck, right? But does it at such a high level and with such care and loyalty to the client that ultimately we just know if we work hard enough and we do enough of the right things, we will make money along the way. Right. That's what a lot of our agents, if you're listening out there, don't have a fear around the changes that are happening in our industry. Ultimately, it's just a change in process. People want you to be paid. They want you to be paid a fair wage. And I don't think that any of that changes. On the topic of failure, so you come out, you crush it the first 6 months, didn't have any problems ever since. Now you're the best thing on earth. No failures along the way.
Wouldn't that be great if that is how it happened?
Where did you run into your first issues? What were some things that maybe were failures early on that you then decided, or looking back, you can go, well, thank God that happened because it pivoted my trajectory.
I tell you, this is a minor thing, but it's a funny story. I decided to do a happy hour one time early on in the business. I was like, oh, do client events. So I do a happy hour, and 2 people show up. And one of them
was the happiest hour of their life.
It was, and that made me very fearful of having like client events.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, it's like it doesn't matter. But that was kind of disheartening. And for me, I'm an introvert by nature. I've never been extroverted. I've had to train myself to speak in front of people and to get out of my shell. So that was one of my wife's concerns too, and mine in the beginning. It's like, you don't really enjoy talking to people, and you may not necessarily be good at talking to people. So that's been a constant thing since day one of trying to get out of my shell and realize that, hey, I'm here to help you. I'm not here to sell something or, oh, look at me. And I think I am a poster child for people that say, well, I don't have that bubbling, outgoing personality. I don't know how I could do that. You can do it. And
what a great coach you've been, right? It's funny to hear you say that because as a leader, right, I admire your your ability to communicate is actually pretty superior to most, right? Like your ability to connect with someone and plug in, and you're authentic. And sometimes I think that's what we miss is these high I personalities that are somewhat, the poster child for real estate. And you're like, they are good at building relationships. And yet some of the things that some high I's lack is that piece to engage about you, right? Making it about the other person. You do such a good job with that when you're leading our agents or coaching them. So kudos to that. And I know that probably didn't come day one, right? You had to kind of learn that along the way.
It's something I learned along the way in my previous career, especially. And the more responsibility I got as a leader at that company, the more I had to get out of my own shell and get out of my own way and get comfortable having uncomfortable conversations. And that was a hard thing as a young person, and you're supervising people that are twice your age that have been with the company maybe twice as long, and you get to tell them how they can improve or be better, and finding that fine line of being authentic and being helpful and being listened to where they would.
So what might you tell somebody if they're thinking about maybe they're in a similar spot, right, where they're not in love with what they're doing or they're looking for a change? What advice would you give somebody thinking about getting into real estate today?
So one of the things that changed my life was the Steve Harvey jump video. I'm sure y'all have probably seen this, where he's on Family Feud and he's talking about you're not put on this earth to do whatever, and God gave you a talent and you have to find that talent. If you've never watched that, go find that, look it up on YouTube. It will give you goosebumps and make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. I watched that, and then I watched it like 20 more times. And then I started sending that to people that I worked with, and I was like, have you seen this? So like 3 of us jumped around the same time. And it was terrifying, but it wasn't, because I kind of had a plan, right? I didn't know if I would be as successful as I have been, which I've done all right? We're, bills are paid. But I think once you get that motivation and you just realize, like, my back was up against a wall where I'm like, I have to do something. If I'm at the point where I don't really care if I live or die, from there for my family in the future, it was pretty easy to make that change. But you have to find that compelling why. And I have this conversation with agents all the time. If you get into this business without a good why, a sustainable why, you may have some initial success, and you'll sell some houses and you feel good about it, and you'll get that commission check and you'll be like, yay. But if you don't have a real deal why, it's not going to carry you through all the transactions that aren't smooth, or all the conversations that you have, all the rejection that you're going to get in the business. You have to have a why that will get you up out of the bed, out of the house, and doing something every day.
Well, we were just talking to our friend Christian Lemire on another episode, and he said, not only how do I respond to failure, but how do I respond to winning, right? I do think in real estate, you are so challenged for the first few deals because you want to prove to yourself that you can do it. And I've seen agents that do it, and then after a few deals, they go, yeah, this isn't for me, right? Because the thrill of the hunt for the first few deals is there, but then realizing that, like, there are a level of players in this space that operate at a really steady click, right? They do a really good job in real estate. And I think we're going to see our industry over the next 18 to 24 months start to filter out that low barrier to entry just for the state of the market and the way that things are. And so I would always encourage anyone. It's changed my life. It's changed, obviously your life, Bethany, all of us in this space. And also it's the people that we get to do it around, right? It's being in the environment of Keller Williams that promotes, sharing and win-win. I love Gary's statement of, in order for me to win, I don't need for you to lose. Yeah. And really being able to do that, it's the only industry where, we have to do that with our competition, right? Like we literally have to find win-wins with people that are also our competitors on every transaction, right? And so it's just a unique world that you get to live in and serve your community. Jameson, thanks for sharing some time with us today. When you think about regrets, right? Or if you're thinking about how to maybe avoid regrets in your life, or thinking about the end of life, looking back, what are some things that you're trying to work on now to make sure you don't have regrets in the future on?
Okay. So if you're a brand new agent watching this and they say, start your database and get that in order, like day one, do that. I did it. It was like day 584 that I started really thinking about that. For me, and this is one of the things that attracted me to KW, God first, family second, business third. For my initial first 3 years in real estate, it was business first, business second, probably business third, and hey, let's squeeze out a little time for family, and Jesus, I love you, but we'll get together
at a later date.
Later. So having that end end goal in mind. Where do you want to be at the end? And knowing that a lot of what we have to do is uncomfortable, and whether that's, door knocking, or whether it's, having difficult conversations with buyers or sellers that need to hear the truth, not what they want to hear, the more that you can make yourself uncomfortable in the front end, the more adversity you can impact now and stop running from it and run into it, then the better you're going to be later on, the better I'm already being for trying to take as much of that adversity right now. So,
a lot of that becomes the, pivot your mind from why would I to how could I.
Yes.
Right. When it comes to being uncomfortable, right? Like, why would I be uncomfortable? Why would I do that? And start to look for ways to go, how could I be uncomfortable, right? How could I make a difference or do something? Because growth happens in that zone, right? I think as parents, right, we recognize that with our children of, you're not going to get better if I shelter you from every pain point, right? Like, you have to grow and develop yourself. So thank you for that. Bethany, what else?
I mean, I think, again, we love this podcast because it brings out conversations like this, and I think our listeners need to hear that, right? A lot of them may be sitting in similar situations and looking for ways to level up their lives and families or businesses. And if you enjoyed these conversations and are looking to have more, please find us at www.level8platform.com, and we're happy to get you in touch with any of our guests like you, Jameson. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, brother.
Thank you.